Artemis Toast here, and this is a message directly to Tool, A Perfect Circle, Puscifer's Maynard James Kennan. Dude, it's been almost 11 years since a new Tool release. As a fan, you don't owe me anything. I appreciate your work over the years. I thoroughly enjoy it, not just Tool, but also A Perfect Circle and the Puscifer work. All great stuff. You know, I'm not gonna get into patting you on the back, all that nonsense. But you know, I don't know what the hang up is. I'm not one of these, guys who jumps on the internet on a daily basis to see the progression of the latest Tool album or what have you. What I do know is it's been nearly 11 years. Once again, I hear things, a lawsuit that you settled, there's this, there's that, mostly coming from the other guys in the band because, I can understand that, when you're doing a project such as Puscifer, you don't want to talk about, Tool. I mean, I'm sure Paul McCartney, when he was with Wings, he didn't want to talk about the Beatles, but not knocking your talent in any way. Once again, I'm a fan. Lyrically, vocally, musically, in general, visually, a fan, of the band Tool, which is a culmination of not only your efforts, but Justin Chancellor, Danny Carey, and Adam Jones. That complete, that whole, in itself is Tool. I might be, just misinterpreting things, but it really seems like you're the hang up. Once again, I'm not trying to undermine your other projects, as I am also a fan. Not because it's you, because you're a member of Tool, because it's good stuff. Puscifer's Humbling River, I thought that was songs to be interpreted in their own way, but thought was a great metaphor that I took it for struggle, etc. And once again, these songs obviously have a personal meaning to the artist who creates them, but the wonderful thing about music is it's open to interpretation, and you can interpret it as you would like. There's a Perfect Circle songs that have I wouldn't say helped me through things, but they provided a piece of the soundtrack, which is my life, as with Tool and as with Puscifer and a number of bands. I talk about many bands I like on the Artemis Toast YouTube channel. Everything from Yellow to Prince, Michael Jackson, and everything in between, really. But I've seen a couple of interviews. I'll pop in every 6 months or so just to see what's happening, because as a fan, once again, you don't owe me or any of your fans anything. But I am much like a lot of the world, or a lot of Tool fans, were in anticipation of your next album, if it's coming. And that's the next point I'm trying to make. And I can't stress it enough, and I know this is my third time saying it, you don't owe us anything. You don't have to explain anything to anybody. But I would like to say, if it is the case that Tool isn't going to release an album, it would be kind maybe to let fans know, because no matter how brilliant an album could be, 11 years is a really long time. And I'm not gonna. I mean, well, obviously, just because I start a statement with "I'm not gonna mention it" and then I mention it, well, I'm mentioning it. Chinese democracy is a great example of and once again, I'm not comparing you to Axl Rose. In my opinion, you're on different stratospheres, different planets, but you know that was a lot of anticipation for a disappointing album. Whatever. You know, um, and I really don't see that. Maybe that is the case. Maybe so much time passes that you know maybe as a band in its entirety afraid of releasing a disappointing product, but you know a lot of us fans are dumb. If you put Tool on it, we're gonna love it. Regardless, once again, means nothing. But this is a message directly to you, Maynard James Kennan, of A Perfect Circle, of Puscifer, of Tool. Um, you know, I know you're into the Puscifer project. um, I know you're deep in the Puscifer project, and it's good. I understand that it takes a lot of time and effort. I write songs myself. I'm not particularly good at it. But even mediocre takes a lot of work. You know, all your releases. And, I own all Tool's releases. In physical formats, and I have all the Puscifer and Perfect Circle projects, and at least in MP3. So I listen to it. Good stuff. But once again, nobody is demeaning those other projects that you do. Nobody is going to, or maybe they do. I can only speak for myself, and really doesn't matter. Just as it doesn't matter to you, it doesn't matter to me. How people perceive your other projects that aren't Tool. But you're an integral part of that group. It's your lyrics and your singing which complete those projects. There's not another singer, songwriter, lyricist, vocalist that can fit that band as you can, because you are part of its identity. Once again, doesn't matter. Just a fan, doesn't mean anything. But, I'd like to say it's because of your success with Tool. Which I'm not saying that, had you started, Puscifer as your first project, or A Perfect Circle as your first project. Although I know it's at Billy Howardell, correct me if I mistake that name, was principal songwriter before, music songwriter behind a lot of the A Perfect Circle things. You know, if not for Tool, a lot of those doors may not have been opened, or not that they would never be open, but they wouldn't be open as quickly. If you were to go to a record executive with once again brilliant stuff, with a demo copy of Mama Said by Puscifer, if your name wasn't Maynard James Kennan of the band Tool, the multi-Grammy winning brilliant prog rock, whatever you want to call it, band Tool, a lot of these doors might not have opened at all, or not as quickly. Once again, maybe I'm kind of negating the very thing that I'm trying to get across here by understanding that you're trying to isolate yourself from Tool with these other projects, but at the same time, it's not so much a contradiction as a double-edged sword that perhaps if not for the band Tool and your millions of fans, who, I'll be perfectly honest, I might not have ever listened to A Perfect Circle or Puscifer had you not been a part of that project. and that's the result of being a fan of the band Tool. Long story short, my message to you, Maynard James Kennan, that means absolutely nothing to anybody, including yourself. Understandable. As I said multiple times, throughout this upload, you don't owe me anything. You don't owe anybody anything. I mean, to my knowledge, as far as fans, but you kind of do. You know, not that I didn't enjoy A Perfect Circle and or Puscifer, but as I stated previously, if not me personally, if not for the band Tool and you being a part of the band Tool, I may have never heard of Puscifer or A Perfect Circle. So, in my humble opinion, which means absolutely nothing to anybody but myself, to be perfectly honest, you owe me nothing. But in a general sense, perhaps a majority or at least a percentage of the fans of your other projects, the seed that was planted was the very fact that once again, perhaps a percentage of those fans are fans because you came or you were part or you're an integral part of Tool. You know, and maybe, and I'm sure these things are been, I'm sure you're tired of hearing stuff like this, but there's a lot of truth to it. I can honestly say I'm not just a fan of Perfect Circle or Puscifer because you're a member. That's exactly how I was introduced, to be perfectly honest. I'm not a fair weather fan that is just gonna follow you along from band to band, solely on the fact that I'm a fan of Maynard James Kennan personally, but it definitely introduced me to those other projects, and I'm sure in that particular sense I speak for a lot of Tool fans. And if I think Puscifer sucks, or if I think A Perfect Circle sucks, I would say, man, I really think this sucks. But I think they're also good projects. But that being said, I feel that Tool is a great project. One of my all-time favorite bands, me being a fan of once again, trying to put labels on things, it really dilutes things, and but for the most part, prog rock. I'm a fan of Rush. I'm a fan of Yes. It's those are Rush is winding down. Yes, went through many iterations, and unfortunately, Chris Squire passed away. As a fan, I won't be able to hear new material from them because it's not going to come. And if it does come, it's not with original members. And once again, I don't know once again, but in general, I know that Tool isn't with their original bassist, but for the most part, Justin's Chancellor's been the primary bassist. So just as Led Zeppelin is not Led Zeppelin without John Bonham, even though they get his son to step in, and many decades have passed. You are still pretty much in your prime, and I guess you owe it to us, but you don't, but you do. You kind of don't, but you kind of do. And I just wanted to air my grievances for not being able to hear a new Tool album in almost 11 years. Excuse me. Once again, don't owe anybody anything. You don't owe your fans anything. These songs are a culmination of not only the band's, but your creations. You don't owe it to us, but maybe you do. So if you're not planning to make an album, the least you could do is let your fans know. And if you are, uh, that's another thing. I hear little blurbs. When I peek my head in to see what's happening on a new Tool album. Of the other members. Mentioning little things like, oh, it's definitely coming, or it's in the oven. What have you. But and another thing, I understand that Tool, toured last year, and it's my understanding that Perfect Circle is gonna, tour this year. I could be wrong. I thought I read that somewhere. Seen them both in concert, both great. You know, I haven't been to a Tool concert or a Perfect Circle concert since the '90s, but I'm glad at least I got to see that. I never got to see Led Zeppelin. There's a lot of bands I really respect I never got to see, but you know, tomorrow's not promised to you, and you don't owe us anything, but you kind of do. So please, if you're going to, you know, 11 years is a long time to work on an album. I'm sure it'll be great. Understand the pressure of deadlines. I don't like working under a deadline either, but you know, I could be guaranteed to release a product in 11 years or less. But sorry for my rant. But Maynard James Kennan, when's the album coming out? You know, don't owe us anything. Certainly don't owe me anything. But maybe you do. Artemis Toast out.